Welcome.
Hello and welcome to OzLoL Podcast, episode 73, also known as the Swiper Dimension, apparently. My name is Colossus. I am host of the show, and we are live on twitch.tv/TForce Podcast from, well, it's nearly 9 p.m. today, but, you know, these things happen. We've had some issues with people not showing up, Victor, and with people also piking at the last minute, Steve. You can go to our website, ozlol.trinityforcepodcast.com, where you can get all our previous episodes, as well as links to our social media, and also our donate button, which you should press, and you should give us money so we can help pay for new microphones. Because we've got some new people, and they kind of, we would like to work towards getting them decent microphones.
What are you saying about my microphone?
Your microphone's okay, but Scott hasn't got a real one yet, so it would be good to get him a real one.
This flappy paddle thing.
I know.
I just want to say I didn't pike. I'm still here. Just my neck is barely holding on.
Okay, well there you go.
He was here all along.
I think we'll just say he's a piker just because eventually he won't be able to reply because his internet will die. That was the voice of Stephen Garstone, regular co-host. We're also joined by Victor and Scott.
Hey.
And joining us for the first time is a e-gaming network journalist, Blackjack. Welcome along to the OzLoL Podcast.
Cheers, guys.
I think you missed a crucial detail.
Which is?
Uh-oh.
Member of the e-gaming network and housemate of the accused.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Not of the accused. Not accused about anything.
I think I was actually getting feedback through both your microphone and Blackjack's as well then.
Yeah,
so.
that was like full dialect right there.
Yeah. Like totally broke down. So Scott's going to break his own internet as well as have Steve's die. Actually, one final bit of show news. Battle Arena is back this Thursday. My work is not holding me back from streaming, so we should be able to do that as of this Thursday, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. So jump in that. If you are bronze to gold and you want to get better at the game, we'd love you to come and join us in the OzLoL chat room, and then we can play some games and have some fun and give you some tips and tricks on how to get better. Now, as we have every week, we have a new person. We like to ask them a couple of simple questions. Blackjack, who is your favourite champion, and which is your favourite lane?
Okay, ever since I started playing, always play bot lane. Pretty much support most of the time. I always had the most fun playing Caitlyn, though.
Okay.
Not in support.
Not in support, yeah. That would be a bit peculiar.
No,
Caitlyn support.
It depends. If I'm playing with Ranconius, then Caitlyn support is viable, but depends on the night.
Those snares, OP.
Cross the room synergy. You can't
that's
get
it.
it.
Back to back. It's like Mario and Luigi
She's
just
the
standing.
only champ I find attractive. That beautiful woman.
Somebody
Okay.
has been introduced to Jinx.
This has obviously got creepy all of a sudden.
The hats. I am a lover of hats, and that is a fine hat. See my hats?
It's the hat.
You had every
Nice.
week.
He's getting a new hat every week. Alright, well, let's move on to some actual, real news, unlike Victor's hats. IEM Taipei happened just last week. They played the games while we were actually doing the show. How can, unpleasant towards us. They should have known that the OzLoL podcast was on and made way for us, but no, they played anyway. The Oceanics' very own Avant-Garde played in those games. There were 6 teams, including TPA, and a bunch of others. Bangkok Tigers. I actually need to look it up now because I didn't think to actually check which other teams were playing.
Flash, which ended up winning the event?
Oh, yeah, YOE or Yoe Flash.
Yoe Flash, I
Wolves?
think that's what they were calling. Yeah.
So Saigon Jokers, Bangkok Titans, Taipei Assassins, HQ Esports, Yoe Flash Wolves, which I think they're a Hong Kong team, and then AV. Playing against Southeast Asia's best, and, well, they, spoiler alert, I think it was a best of 5 game in the quarterfinals. They played against Taipei Assassins, who were Season 2 World Finals, or World Champions, in fact.
Best of 3.
Was it best of 3? Okay, because
it was best of 3.
There was 3 games listed, and like 3 VODs, so I thought they lost the second game.
No. 2 VODs.
I'm going to agree with him.
Okay.
Because if I don't, he's going to walk across the room and slap me.
That's not a bad idea, but I'm also looking at the brackets at the moment.
Ooh, Steve has definitely dropped down. All right, well, you guys talk about IEM while I fix up the stream. So
It's a nice
alright.
chair, by the way, Scott. I can see it from Blackjack's angle. It's a nice chair.
It's-
Mine's better though because it's a race car chair, but that is a nice chair.
I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on it. There will be a race car chair at some point, combined with probably when I do the podcast, I'll be just sitting here going, "Yeah, you guys are wrong. I'm just gonna." I'm working.
anyway, let's talk about IEM Taipei rather than like whatever crap you guys are talking about right now. So
That's
So-
tangent.
playing against, how did they actually do? Somebody want to spoil the results?
Yeah, sure. I'm more than happy to say. No, not more than happy. I'm so sorry to Avant about that, but it was kind of expected they would go down 2-0 to Taipei Assassins.
Yep.
They did end up going to the tournament with an incredibly new bot lane. We have totally lost Nada somewhere in the system. I couldn't find anything to do with him, but the casters were saying. However, having said that, the casters' information wasn't incredibly accurate.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
for
that.
a lot of the stuff that they did say about the oceanic scene. So, I mean, it is a small scene. We're not very well known other than Legacy. They did call the Advanced Squad Legacy at one point as well. But other than that, let's get off the mistake train.
Yep.
They did try, and I believe they said that Nada had gone back home to continue study. I think. But Veritas has moved to the United States to play for, and I've now lost the team name off the top of my head, but he's now in the United States.
Oh no, I thought he went and then he came like.
No.
Oh no, he did go. Yeah,
That's gone.
I thought Dedian took over his spot, but it must have been Mizui.
Yeah, it's now Mizui and Junie that are the
Yeah.
bot lane for
So
AV currently, and I'm not sure if that's a more permanent thing. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I think that was just these guys had definitely had passports and could definitely go. So that might have been just an arrangement just to get through the tournament, get the representation out there. Which, having said that, was really really good for the scene as well. Getting invited to a tournament like this, it just
Yeah,
doesn't-
I agree. Like, sorry,
What
go
I'm getting
ahead.
at the moment, sorry, is that Nada's actually quit to focus on uni, obviously, and yeah, Veritas, it was Final Flame. Team name there.
Final Flame. Okay. It says Final Five. What I'm looking at, but okay. Either way.
I think it is 5. I think it is Final 5.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think with I mean, I think the next stage of the development of the of the experience of the Oceanic teams is to go do international events. So IEM jumps all around. So I guess it may be a while before it comes back to Taipei, which is a
They
shame.
hold events every year. Like the point of IEM is there are events around the world every year. They hold.
Yeah, but they don't have it necessarily in the same spot every year.
Yeah.
Because they have Taipei,
Well,
and then they've got Katowice, and they've got, they've got heaps of San Jose. I think it's regularly changing, like, it's different spots. So whether there's another Southeast Asian located tournament that we can get invited to, I guess that's the question. But I think that's where, if we're going to actually make it out of, or make it win the wild cards and make an impact at Worlds, I think that's the way we need to sort of focus and try and move towards.
Yeah, I think it's really good just getting our name out there a bit more to every other region, then we can get some kaboom status going. The underdogs.
We just need to get Reddit on our side, and then we'll be the winners.
Yeah.
Because
You're with Reddit, you start something.
yeah, because I'm such a big personality on Reddit. Well, actually, I guess that ties into maybe something about the stream, which a lot of people noticed on Twitter and commented on Twitter, which was the attitude that people had towards the Oceanic scene. So there's a lot of negativity. I think Ricotis, you were one of those persons.
I don't want to talk about it. We had a private discussion before the cast last week, and I just said that I'm sick of it. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to talk about it. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it is like that. I mean, why people feel, because if it was Kaboom playing, everybody would be like, hey, yeah, Kaboom. I mean, I guess they did beat Alliance at Worlds, so that's something of note. But such a terrible attitude.
Did you see the disrespect Dark Passage got when they got into Worlds? It's like, Dark Passage, lol, and Kaboom, just like, oh man, Kaboom, they haven't played yet, but Kaboom.
I think thing with it all is that Dark Passage took it too seriously when they went to Worlds. You could see Kaboom went there and they were just like, we're not going to win a game. Let's do something crazy. Let's have fun. It was the last, like, what they were doing the entire World Championships was going there, getting experience, but also enjoying themselves in an esport. And it very much replicated TSM's last game at the previous World Championships, where they played that Teemo bot lane, get Reggie first blood, and that was their entire strategy. I thought, stuff like that needs to happen at the professional level to generate a fan base around some of these sort of lower tier teams, because if you can, and this is where the Oceanic Pro League is going to become very much the important part, obviously. Well, it's going to be the important part of, mainly to the growth and whatnot of the Australian thing, but it's also got to be that the teams have to be seen to be real personalities and not just people throwing themselves so hard and so in depth into a video game. I want to see some personalities, and I really want to see Riot especially throwing themselves into focusing on the development of these player personalities in the public's eye. And that is how esports in Australia will grow, especially in League of Legends, because we're an Australian community where we're about that larrikin attitude. If we don't have personalities of the larrikins, we don't watch a sport typically.
Oh, yeah, but the problem with your argument is Kaboom didn't play Mordekaiser.
Didn't they?
They didn't play Mordekaiser, mate. But as great as showmanship is, we are talking about the highest level of play where you're expected to see a lot of flawless kind of great team movement, great mechanical skill that all the lower players envy. I mean, like, showmanship is great, but this is professional play we're talking about. People don't go to the Olympics, run a 100-meter race backwards, or do backflips all the way down the track.
I nominate you, Victor.
I mean,
I do backflips down the track, but that's because I'm me. I'm not a pro.
I mean, I guess it would have been interesting to see how things would have gone if they'd drawn either Bangkok Titans or the Saigon Jokers, because I mean, that's why they separated Taipei and Hong Kong and Macau away from the Garena, the Southeast Asian stuff, because Taipei and Hong Kong and Macau are just so much better than sort of Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, all those teams. So I guess it would have been good to see the skill matchup in that regard, because I think that will help give teams confidence. Because TPA, they made it into Worlds last year, didn't they?
Yeah, and
they got
really good in their first game, and they didn't know how to close out a game or start a Baron, and then they just tilted more and more every game, and they looked like arse.
But to come out top of their table out of Taipei to qualify for Worlds, like, that says that they are a top quality team. I mean, obviously not Korean level or probably Chinese level, but that's still way above the stage that Oceania is at. So I guess we could hope that maybe next time around with an IEM or some sort of event like that, we draw someone who's a bit more evenly matched, so we can get an idea of where Oceania sits in the overall scheme of things. Because being stomped by Taiwanese teams is not like fun.
Something I would have liked to have seen with the tournament is potentially, because Asia has so many little minor regions that are all sort of competing underneath the OGN and the DLPL, which are obviously broadcast. Like, Japan has a region. They didn't even have a team at Taipei.
Well, I guess they've...
Also Indonesia, you mentioned as well.
Yep.
I would have loved to have seen a wild card spot for maybe 2 places there, and seen like a bunch of different teams that got invited to the wild card to IEM. Because it's a different kind of region in a different part of the world. Everyone, of course, wants to see the big names, and that's what it's aimed at. But I also would like to see some integration, because that would also, if you invited 3 teams, that would have been more than likely AV, Legacy, and Chiefs. Those 3 teams more than likely would have gotten the invite to go and compete in the wildcards. And if you send those 3 teams and you send them, they all get experience at a higher level. At the same time, we get to see what our region is like compared to all the other minor regions, because for me as well, a big problem with the wildcard tournament to compete at the World Championships is that Dark Passage just owned everyone at that wildcard tournament. In the end, I mean, Legacy, yes, they took 1 game off them, but that wasn't Dark Passage playing Dark Passage. As soon as Dark Passage sat down and played to their game plan with their picks and what they wanted to do, they absolutely dominated Legacy. That was not a wildcard event, that was Dark Passage event. I want to see something more open and integrates a lot more regions and integrates a lot more teams, so you get to experience what not just one team from one region is like. You get to experience, hey, maybe Oceania, in the comparison of things, maybe Chiefs play really, really well against the Turkish region, but they don't play really, really well against somebody from the minor Asian leagues. And on the flip side, maybe AV play really, really, really well against somebody from the minor Asian leagues, but they don't play really well against the Turkish or the Brazilian scenes. Maybe it's the Mordekaiser pick that deals with them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how they want to structure it this year, because now they'll have... I mean, Japan's just started up their
they started their league last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but they'll definitely... I imagine they'll definitely have their own thing this year. Like, they'll definitely have a wildcard entry this team this year. You'd imagine that Southeast Asia, so, Singapore, Vietnam, they're not going to get an automatic qualification to Worlds. Like, just because... I mean, they got one previously because they had these Taiwanese teams who were so good. Now that they've separated the two, I imagine they'll have to go through wildcards as well. So, you've got at least 2 new regions into the wildcard qualification stage, along with Brazil and Latin America and Turkey and Russia. So, it'll be interesting how they organise that, whether they have them all together, whether they just have like an Asian region wildcard entrant, then they've got a European, Turkey, Russia, and then an American wildcard entrant. Maybe have Canada... like Canada and versus Brazil and Mexico, so that'd be interesting. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Because it is a North American LCS, but there's no real teams competing from a Canadian background. Is a good point that you made as well there. I'd like to see a Canadian senior league, even a Canadian University League team have a crack at something like this, because there would be a player base in the Canadian universities that would be strong enough to compete at one of these sort of level tournaments. So something like that would be really interesting to see. Even
I was actually
French Canada and English Canada.
Yeah, Quebec. I was actually joking about Canada, but I guess most of those guys are probably just play on NA anyway. But
they do. So there is the Canadian spread, but obviously they're a little bit.
Just have odd one. Just a team of one, and just have it as odd one. Odd one and Maple Street. Or whatever his brother's name is. And there's like
to end up with odd one in the fantasy draft.
He did. Because he's a hero. Like I got Darian.
Me? I didn't get odd one.
Somebody got odd one.
Somebody got odd one.
They didn't get hotshot though.
I didn't get any I didn't want any TSM players on my team. I just took their team because I was like, well, they might do something, but I don't trust them, so I'm just taking their team. I'm not taking any players.
Yeah, and you always made your picks in the last second of your countdown timer, which is really annoying.
Man,
actually, you should put up the VOD for that.
Strongly about those picks, and I have top 5 players right across the board except for Helios.
The first 59 seconds talking about crap. And then you picked a player.
And then we made fun of him for it. Anyway, let's move on before we get into fantasy, though. We should point that I actually beat Steve this week, so I just want to put that in there.
Everyone's beating Steve.
Okay, so some other developments in the... Oh, was there anything anybody else wanted to add about IEM before we move on? No? Okay. Let's talk about pause. So, we've had I think we've had some permabans before, but our first permabans for this season. The top laner was... No, he wasn't top laner. Who was he? What position was he playing in? Well, anyway, Pause was playing, who's previously been banned. He got found out to be one of the players on Rich Gang. They didn't realize he'd been banned, and so he's been banned again and, permanently suspended indefinitely from all Oceanic tournaments. So, there you go. Benji coming down with the ban hammer.
It needed to happen. He'd been warned.
Yeah.
It's just nice to see action is being taken. I think that's really all I feel about it. Like, just to know that, there is someone actually watching this shit and, like, trying to clean up that crap.
Mm. I mean, early boosting is a hard thing to find out, so, you got to ban it where you find it. And in another sort of just small development at Legacy, so Cardred and Tallywhacker have switched positions, Cardred being AD, Tally being top. They've now switched, so Tally is AD and Cardred is now top. So not much of a big thing, but still, it's there. And something which I think is great, but I'm kind of a bit mystified why we haven't heard more of. But OPL starts this week. It actually starts on Thursday, and I don't know any details about anything about it. The format.
There will be games.
There's going to be games.
There's a viewing party held at Spawn Point, which is gaming
Sydney.
sort of bar that's cropped up in Sydney actually on Thursday night, in combination with Riot. So if you're in Sydney and you want to go down and experience the oceanic atmosphere for the oceanic players at an event, I'm gonna find out some details and I'll make sure that they're around somewhere.
Yes, go watch the mystery games, of which the format we don't know, and all we know is that Legacy and Chiefs will be playing. That's it. So I suspect it's probably they're a bit quiet on that regard because Benji sounds like Benji's completely flooded with LPL stuff. So and he's the main guy. So if he's completely busy with like doing broadcasts almost every night of the week with LPL, like he's not going to have time to sort of do OPL stuff. So I guess that's my hunch. But I want to get him on the show, but he hasn't replied to me.
I'll hit up Mr. Marauder. He's a fantastic guy. I'll get contact
your
with him.
friendship status has ended as a carrot.
Yeah, me and Benji were like close. We were like best buds.
He doesn't return your
That's
phone
it.
calls
He's
anymore.
abandoned me. I'm just like
the carrot for too long in front of the Benchy.
I'm like alone in the world. I just like wander around.
Used to force myself into people's lives, and unfortunately, I can't force myself into Benji's life and be his best friend, and then
you know what? There's another desk in between me and Glenn. If you'd
But
like to sit there.
And Scott's fiance turns her head looking and going, "I'm here. You can't force me out."
Yeah, I think if you take that desk, then Scott gets kicked out. So it's up to you.
It's like musical chairs.
Just thinking. I don't think I'm getting dinner tonight.
I think this is appropriate for your fiance to now punch you in the arm on stream. You gotta get it.
Okay, you just got
I'm
permission
just
to
gonna line up the camera and
stream.
just punching him.
Yeah. We'll screenshot it.
Okay. While they're doing that, do we want to talk about the immunity changes, or are we going to leave that? I mean, Steve's not here.
Well, actually, yeah. So before we start the show,
you want me to do it because I feel like I know a little bit about this.
Okay, if you think this is something worth talking about, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Immunity are looking to replace their mid laner Claire because reasons. Claire is a very strong player, but I think the issue is Claire is a very strong solo player. And Immunity are sort of like that team that's looking to be the Cloud9 of Oceania, which means they're not amazing standout players in general, but their team synergy is just absolutely fantastic and brilliant and just stomps everyone else out. And I think for that kind of concept, Claire might be too much of a solo player, goes for those assassins, try to make the big quadra kill plays by himself. So I guess that might be why they're looking for a more team-oriented mid laner, someone who's going to bring out the mad Orianna plays or something.
Got the skinny from the inside. So just got a message from Steve, who, if you're unaware, is manager of Immunity. He says that the new mid laner for Immunity is Little Cutie Cheese. So that's cool.
Oh, there you go. That's a really good move for him.
Yeah. He says Claire and the team decided to part for mutual reasons. While the details behind it are somewhat personal in nature, the new mid laner will be Little Cutie Cheese. Completely forgot to tell you.
Lol. Whatever he does.
Yeah.
No, he's a very fantastic player.
Yeah, he's good to watch. So hopefully we'll be seeing some of that mid lane Swain again, because gosh darn, his Swain play is pretty darn amazing. Alright, well, I think with that, we've covered all the news in the Oceanic scene. Let's get into patch notes, because we love patch notes. We're never sick of patch notes.
We might go through them quickly.
We haven't been doing this for like 3 weeks now. So, Blackjack, you gonna say something?
No, all yours.
Alright, let's talk about the thing we didn't get to talk about last week. I'm gonna throw down with Scott right now.
Oh god.
We're gonna talk about Baron. We're gonna talk Baron, alright? So.
Why don't I like Baron?
Okay. Fine, you talk about why you don't like Baron. I'll tell you why I don't care about that and why... Anyway, you go.
Why don't I like Baron? Baron is an objective that you can only take on the map when you have removed either multiple members from the other team or you're so far ahead that what the heck are you doing at Baron unless you have a pick comp? Without a pick comp, you should be pushing turrets. The only reason other than that you should be going to Baron after a team fight victory is if 0 waves are in a position to shove even 1 tower. And then the only reason you should be going to Baron is if your tank can't tank the turrets. If I have an Alistair support, he is tanky enough by level 10-ish with about a Sight Stone and Heart of the Mountain, Face of the Mountain, that one. whatever it is. That's all you need. You just need one member like that, or you need to rotate the turret's aggro, which you can do. Get a support like Janna. She stands at the edge of the turret aggro, shields herself as needed, and then just walks out of the turret when she's taking too much damage. Somebody else then tanks the turret. That's more than enough damage to take a turret. Baron at that stage of the game is useless. Right? You're buffing minions to go and take turrets. Yeah, you only...
Except that...
And given all that information...
waste of time.
Given all that information that Ranconius has just ranted all over us, in patch 5.1, Baron has had massive HP and damage nerfs, and now starts to scale upwards from level 1, which means when he spawns at 20 minutes, he has a little bit less health and a little bit less damage.
Exactly. Just it's like...
But, okay, yeah, but the thing is, okay, so... That's all good and well say we should take turrets, except unless there's somebody there. Like, the reality is that the base turrets are so strong right now that if there's anybody there, you just can't do anything. You know, you can't take them. Even, you know, it's just... The problem with the situation at the moment is that Baron's too hard to take early, and turrets are too hard to take early. And there's basically, once you clear all the outer and inner turrets, you've basically got the situation where, well, you can't take Baron because you're not strong enough to take him quickly, and you can't take the inhibitor turrets because you're not strong enough to dive and to fight a team as well as fight the turrets, which I originally thought were really weak. I've since learned they're really friggin' strong. And so, you know, you essentially have this problem where you just got to kind of wait around. And so what I like about these Baron changes is it at least opens up the possibility that through future changes, Baron will be weak enough that you can actually take him quick enough that even if the whole team is up, if you play it right, if you ward, you know, if you clear out their wards, you can still take it, rather than spending 15 minutes taking Baron. Because you need, either that or they need to nerf the turrets. They need to figure out what they want to do, because I think the turret strength is okay right now, because Baron is, if you can get Baron, you can take those turrets easily. And that's the whole point. And that's how it should be played.
I think we need to just start looking at more turret-taking items. I think we need more incentive to buy turret-taking items, and I think we need a reason to see Caitlyn with an Elixir of Ruin. I don't know why people aren't buying Caitlyn with an Elixir of Ruin. Come on. And why aren't we seeing more Ohm Wrecker? Why aren't we seeing more...
Actually, Ohm Wrecker's a good one.
Take an Alistar support, take something like a Scion or a Nasus in the top... A Scion, Nasus, Renekton in the top lane. Get them to buy Ohm Wrecker. Then just... Done. Turrets are done. Like, if you have two people on your team with an Ohm Wrecker,
hang on, the thing is...
it's disabled for long enough to remove 3/4 of its HP before it can even do anything.
Well, yeah, except... I don't know.
Except you have to do it back up after the first one for about 10 seconds, then come back in and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, even if the other team can wave clear enough, you know, like that's... Well, yeah, I mean... Well, yeah, I mean, it's... I don't think... Ohm Wrecker is good. It will help you get enough kills so that you can then continue to siege the turret. I don't think you disable it for long enough to be able to actually take it down.
Especially with... Banner of Command makes a minion completely immune to magic damage, and one of the most wave clear in the game comes from magic damage.
Yeah, but the tower itself will just destroy that minion.
Yeah, well, the minion gets buffed in general, which means you have a little bit of time to get in there and get a little bit of damage off on the tower, and that's how sieges work, you know? You get one unit in there a little bit, and then you all hit it, and then you back off a bit, and then you come back with the next wave, and you hit it a bit, and you back off again. There is so much in the game right now that makes towers weaker. There's Elixir of Ruin, Ohm Wrecker, Banner of Command, the Baron. There's so much stuff in the game. Whatever that buff is on Dragon that gives more tower damage. There is so much in the game right now to help us take towers. I don't know why teams aren't looking more into those items instead of just sticking to what they know.
Because they're too weak. The gold that you're inputting into these items doesn't have enough of a net return around. Like,
it's the $400 gold for an Elixir of Iron.
That's great, but then you could have picked up an Elixir of Ruin instead, which does more damage to towers than... Is it Iron that does?
Sorry,
Sorcery.
That's what I meant.
Sorcery.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Sorry. So you have Elixir of Sorcery, or you have Elixir of Ravage, whatever the AD one is. And that gives you lifesteal or physical damage. Physical damage is going to help you beat on that turret quicker. So even... I just think if you're going to get something like that, you're probably better off getting the AD Elixir. Because having that lifesteal even if I mean, it's quite negligible, but for somebody maybe like a Vlad, a Lissandra that might have an auto attack some point in the middle of the fight, that's a little bit of damage that they can be regenerating, and that little bit of damage sometimes does actually turn those fights around, as minuscule as it is.
Basically, what I'm saying is, I'm not sure we've looked into enough of these resources we've been given to take towers, and if they are too weak, then let's tweak them up a bit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think getting Baron's balance right at an earlier stage is just as good, because Baron buff allows you to do all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd like to note about the Omrecker is that what you are investing into that item, you have to get from worthwhile in either turret dives or turret takes using the active, because you are investing a lot of gold into the active portion of that item. So yeah, you have to make it worth. If you don't make it worth, it's not a very good item at all, which is the risk that you run by using it.
I've seen that item be somewhat effective on junglers in particular. Like I've seen Wukongs build it, and I reckon Jarvan could probably pick it up, no problem as well. I'm not sure what the price is on it, so I can't make an estimation on its statistical efficiency or whatever. But
what's this? Which are we talking about?
Omrecker.
Omrecker.
Gold
Oh,
efficiency
yeah.
On a jungler.
Gold efficiency wise, LoLWiki actually keeps all of these sort of stats.
Yeah.
Omrecker is 95.2% efficient on gold. I can't give you the exact numbers that they run to bring you that efficiency. That's without that's totally without the active. So
yeah.
Give
it more stats.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you can't really make it any more efficient.
You can't give that any more stats really. If you make it 100% gold efficient, then it's worth picking up before you get the active. So.
Yeah. Alright, well, we've probably covered that enough. Like, we've got to keep moving on, because there's still heaps more to talk. Let's talk ZZ Top Portal, or Zarot Portal if you're, you don't want to have fun. It's been added. It's been around for a while now. And we'll go to Blackjack first.
Changes in 5.2 as well.
Changes. So if you're not completely familiar with what it is, essentially it's a void gate that creates void spawnlings that essentially run down the lane and attack the turrets. So it allows you to push the lanes with an item. Blackjack, what are your thoughts on Zarot Portal?
Is your microphone activated?
No, it's not. I've pretty much had that off to try and avoid feedback from one certain loudmouth. Jess. I actually haven't seen too much of this item. I haven't played a lot of League recently. For various reasons, mainly work being fairly busy and going back to cricket. I haven't been on the computer as much, and even when I am a certain somebody is always on my computer.
Jess.
Jess.
Wow, she's really copying it today. So, look, again, I really don't know too much about this. I'll be honest, I'm really just here for DFG today.
Alright, well, I guess we'll get to that. Scott and Victor, what are your thoughts on ZZ Top Portal?
It's another item we can use to help push our towers better.
Yes, it
I
is.
built it for fun.
Bit of fun? I mean,
I killed a Nexus the other day. I backdoored the Nexus with the ZZ Rot Portal, and that was the best game I have had in about the last 3 years of League of Legends.
I've encountered a couple bugs with it. One of them being it was put really close to one of the bot lane towers, just in the blue bush, like that little bush that sticks in the blue camp. Rather than the Voidling running into the inner tower, it ran all the way around past wolves to go to the inhibitor turret. So this sneaky little placement of this portal that was supposed to run there and get little sneak grabs of this freaking tower has run all the way around the long way to a tower that was miles away, and it was dying before it even got to the lane. So that's a bug I've seen with it. In terms of its strength, I have not a clue. I have not seen this item used effectively yet, and I have been too locked out of League to try it myself.
I sort of fear that it's going to be another Omrecker, like an item that has a clear purpose, but at no point does anybody actually really feel the need to build it, because, I mean, the thing about this it doesn't give you enough defensive stats compared to actual straight up defensive items. And I just wonder if the active. I mean, you think an item that gives you a 3-second that turns off turrets for 3 seconds. Who wouldn't want that item? But I don't think I've ever seen an Ohm Wrecker in a single game of League, and it's been out for 2 years. I kind of just feel that Zorot Portal is going to be more or less the same thing.
I guess one thing you can do with the portal is stop a wave a little bit, because you can put it right up ahead of your wave, and then the minions will run, the little voidlings will run out into the next wave, and it'll slow the wave down, so your minions get there and push it a bit quicker. I guess that's some way you could use it.
The other problem with that is if you make the waves, if it catches the waves right where the minion dies, as in they don't attack it, they just group up, that actually pushes the wave back towards you. So you can use it in that way for freezing as well, but if you were looking to freeze with that item, you're not using it to its full purpose. The other problem with it is if you are thinking about building a Ohm Wrecker, the passive doesn't stack with Ohm Wrecker, so you can't build the two together, which means you have another pushing item that can't really work with it. So.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I just can't think of a single champion who would just want to build this item as opposed to anything else. Like, it's an opportunity cost thing. Like, if you're playing a tanky jungler, why wouldn't you build a Spirit Visage or, a Randuin's Omen? If you're a lot of top laners are doing damage. Like, why would you build this sort of item? I mean, you might build it if it's your 6th item, but we don't really see that a whole lot in pro play. Heck, in any level of play. I mean, and I think... So, yeah, I just sort of wonder how you thought it's going to be.
This is just one of those things that happens when we had a really, really situational item in the game. I can see someone picking it up and putting it in the jungle and doing that siege thing where you come up with the wave, you do a little bit of damage on the tower, you come back a bit because they cleared it. You come back, do a little bit more damage, and you come back a bit more. And meanwhile, you got the little voidlings coming out, and they're getting a little bit of damage in there too. But it's so situational. Sieging? Yeah, sieging. I know what it is, and so you can probably get a little bit more damage off that, but that's another. It's just situational. How many times that can happen in a game, particularly a solo queue game. It's situational items. The woe of situational items.
All right. Well, we're going to jump over some of this stuff because we can't talk about it all.
I think we should decide which things we want to talk about and which things just aren't that significant.
Let's talk about DFG because that is significant.
Okay, so we're skipping Morellonomicon, Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge, Stalker's Blade, and Trinkets.
Scrap that. All right, Blackjack, since you wanted to talk about DFG, you get first dibs on this one. So talk about DFG.
Yes, okay. So this is definitely, I'm going to say from my point of view, one of my favourite changes. A lot of mid laners are going to hate me for saying that. Because I suppose DFG you do see a lot on a lot of assassins. But I kind of like the way that it puts a lot of the play back onto... you got more chance for counter plays now because you do actually get slightly more time to react to exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Okay.
No, you go, Karen.
I guess... so the stated intent is to take away burst from already bursty champions. Like, they want to move away from having champions that just have very little counterplay, they just jump in and you're dead. And so this is taking away from that. One of the things I really like about this particular change is it allows you to nerf and buff champions based on their... on their particular abilities rather than working around this item. And we found that with Lichbane as well. There's a whole bunch of champions previously that were really overpowered because of Lichbane. And in that case, they actually nerfed Lichbane, but then they were able to sort of change these champions because Lichbane wasn't distorting their kit so much. So that's what I like about it the most. I mean, it's going to give them more levers to adjust champions and to get them in a good spot. And I think it's also working, and I guess we can touch on this when we get to Zed and some of the assassins that are in 5-2. It gets them into a better, more healthy position because they're not just blowing you up when you have no opportunity to respond.
Yeah,
I think the less targeted abilities in the game, the better. Because targeted abilities are really dumb. I don't like them.
I'm gonna have to agree with that.
Particularly the aggressive ones, because it's just you can't avoid getting a targeted ability hit on you. Like Syndra's ultimate is something I hate with a passion, because that, like, if I'm playing a squishy role, my counterplay to Syndra is don't go near her.
Yeah.
Don't go within this certain radius of Syndra. If you do, you're dead. That's it. That's my big gripe with targeted abilities, and this item makes that worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of target abilities, it's going to a nice sort of change that I like. Akali's getting a nerf. Very happy about that. So the range on her ultimate is reduced by 100. Her E no longer procs her Q damage, the bonus damage from her Q. So essentially, she actually needs to get up closer. Because, I mean, that's part of the issue is she Qs you, then procs it with her E. You know, it's sort of a bit like Katarina's AoE ability. You know, not her ultimate, but the... Blade Surge or something. Can't remember what it's called, but basically, you know, it gives her a lot of damage even before she hits 6, and then she hits 6, and then she's chasing you down. No, not Bouncing Blade. It's the other one.
You mentioned Katarina. There's Bouncing Blade. I don't know what her one's called, but you were talking about Bouncing Blade.
So that makes me happy. But let's talk about Ahri. So Ahri's probably going back to DFG. Ahri's one of the champions that had to be changed for it. Her Q now gives her rapid movement when she uses it. Her Foxfire, her W does a little bit more damage at level 1, 10 more damage at level 1, 30 more damage at level 5. Her Charm no longer does bonus damage, but its AP ratio has gone up and its base damage has gone up at max rank. What do we think about the new Ahri? She's gone from moved away from being an assassin to being more of a mage. What are people's thoughts?
Yeah, Riot have given her an identity with this. A unique identity. They've decided that they want her to be the kitey runaway mage, but still dealing all the damages and hard to catch and super slippery. Can't get her. Instead of I hit the charm, the DFG, the orb, the foxfire, the dash, 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 dash. Ooh.
I really thought previously that Ahri did have this really kind of nice identity. It just kind of clashed a little bit with Akali, but Akali went for more healy. I think if they just took the heal away from her passive and changed the passive slightly, she would have had a really, really nice, unique identity. I do agree that hitting Charm with Ahri, you run, because I was actually playing a fair bit of Ahri over about the last 5 patches, just on and off. Every time I sort of played mid, I was just going, oh yeah, Ahri! It was just build DFG, hit E, land DFG, land one ulti with W on, press W, ult in, and then throw your Q, and they're instantly dead. No counterplay whatsoever once they hit that Charm. But it was a skill shot. And the only problem with that was that there was a very sort of predictable chain of events, and Charm was up a little bit too often. I think it was about a 15-second cooldown at max rank, whereas it's a 12-second cooldown at all ranks. I would have liked to have seen it go to maybe a 20-25 second cooldown at level 1 and scale back to about a 15-second cooldown. I think that would have been a really nice identity. But on sort of every other note, Lissandra was becoming a pest again with the DFG. Annie was returning to the support role. And even though she was landing the DFG somebody else was landing the DFG, she was still getting the benefit for it. That's a lot of the problem. But I mean, I do really like the change. It did remove free CDR from the AP Assassin sort of style. I don't think that Assassins should be building into CDR. I think they should be building focused upon burst, and that should be their primary goal, not being able to build burst and get CDR at the same time, plus a really cool active effect that just benefits their entire kit. I think that's a really, really good option. Because you think about all the assassins, they've already got low cooldowns. You look at Akali, you look at Katarina, you look at Ahri, they've all got sort of these low, constantly up sort of cooldowns. That's what you're looking at. They don't need more CDR on top of that. So now there's the benefit to tweak around the CDR, and the fact that they're probably not going to build as much cooldown reduction. And that's now something that they can really look to tweak with the AP-based champions. And I'm really, really excited for what that leads into over the next several patches. I really think this should have been done earlier in the preseason. I think what Riot really tried to do this preseason, and I do applaud them for trying, is they have tried to not repeat the Black Cleaver mistake of, I believe it was Season 3, and introduce something and a bunch of things all at once and then go, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. But then they phased it out over so long that the change that they were initially making sort of lost its focus. I think they shouldn't have rushed their start of the seasons. I think probably make the seasons maybe a week shorter each, I think, would be a much better outcome here. And given themselves just a little bit more time, maybe 2 more patches to just roll things through, done a bunch of changes at the start and then tune slowly back. I think the DFD change just definitely came too late, because when you look at it, Ari was played this week in LCS with a DFG. DFG was still in the game in the LCS this week and still will continue to be... No, I think that's it. I think she's now done with DFG. So that's why I think the season should be a little bit shorter, because then they can make changes like this, which are a really, really good positive game change. They've now sort of tuned it and added it a bit too late because they didn't sort of mull over the changes and be in the right position with game state to make the change at an earlier stage. Applaud, points out of that. Applaud for taking the time to make changes correctly in a preseason time, and also at the same time having preseason changes flow through into the new season.
Yeah, I mean, I think... I think her new kit is actually going to work better in a more healthy way. So, you know, she's really got too much good ranged ability. Like, you know, her Q is too good to be on an assassin. You know, it's just too much. It's good wave clear. It's good damage. Assassins generally don't have good sort of ability. Like, they basically should all in. That's their thing. They hang around, all in. That's the change we've seen with Fizz now. Zed's more like that. LeBlanc, I guess, is going that way as well. So I think
there will be some more changes, I think, to LeBlanc. I don't think LeBlanc will be left alone as she is.
Well, I think if Steve was here, because I spoke to Steve, I think if Steve was here, he might have something to say about Ari and whether or not she can still be classified as an assassin.
Well, I don't think she is. I think she's a mage now.
So given these changes to Ari, do we still think that she's going to be a top tier pick? Or what do we think this is going to change to her?
I think maybe not professionally. I think
her win
from a
rate
solo queue
through the roof. Her win rate has gone through the roof, and I've heard she's had some top lane play, which is weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a solo queue perspective, I think she's a really good pick. She's got heaps of mobility. She's gonna be very hard to gank. Essentially, now whenever somebody comes to gank you, you throw out your Q, you run away, because the speed boost on her Q is actually, it's not quite as good as Jinx, but it's pretty close. Like, at that level, I think it's like an extra 150 movement or something, like really quite impressive. You know, when you see it in action, you're like, wow, that is actually really good.
That actually does make her orb more reliable to hit, because it goes to her, not where she casted it from. So it comes out, and if they want to move to the side, I'll just run where they're going.
Yeah. So I mean, I think
really quick with it as well. You'll probably be able to hit them 3 times now. But I'm not sure that'll actually work.
You can't hit it on the way back. I've tested this with Draven. If you throw his ult out, it'll hit him the first time. And if you hit the recall button while you throw it or teleport somewhere, it'll hit him the first time, then the second time, and then if you teleport to the other end of him and it goes back, it will not hit him again.
Okay.
I've tested this. I've tried it, and I've hit a Riven 3 times. It just did not register the third hit because it's still considered the second path through.
Yeah. I don't think you can outrun your own ability, but certainly I think it makes it hard to gank. It allows you to position better for charm. So, you know, you throw out your Q, then you run to the side, you hit the charm, you use your abilities. So I think Ari's still a really good pick for, like, solo queue. Maybe not.
I think she's gonna maybe turn into more of a support based off that new kit. Then, I really actually like that idea. If she's like that, she's a defensive. I think she'd combo really, really well with Kalista.
Yeah, I don't know about
because
that.
Because with Kalista, you ult, throw the Ari in, knock up, charm, and then Ari just ults backwards, and you can play around that however you want.
That brings back memories of that ARAM game. That brings back memories of that ARAM game.
Yeah. Oh no, I want to see this in action before I really comment.
I'm actually up for it. I was playing Ari support before this.
Can we?
Let's move on.
Can we do Fizz really quick? And
let's talk about
really,
Fizz.
really important that we talk about the giant belt change.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, which is really easy. But let's talk Fizz. So Fizz's main change, essentially, they've recalibrated his kit to be more focused on his letting his ultimate and then following up on that. So he hit the base damage on his Q, the ability power ratio, and the max damage at level 5 has been reduced. Thank God, no longer applies grievous wounds on his W, and the base damage on that has been changed from, it's taken away its ratio, it's increased its max damage, but now it does missing health damage.
The missing health.
Yeah, percentage of missing health
missing
damage.
Health previously was just on the passive portion of the ability. It was always there. It's just now
that's
passive to active,
which is good.
Which is a very positive change. Yeah.
In my view, Fizz is actually. If you land your shark, he actually does increase damage by 20%. So essentially, that aspect of Ari's charm has now moved to Fizz, which I think is great.
More Zeds.
What I like most about this change is that change to W. Like, getting rid of the Grievous Wounds to make it a lot much more easy to lane against him because you had to use your pots at full strength. And he's not going to hit you with that the damage over time, because getting hit with that repeatedly, like every time he came into auto attack, just grinding you down was so frustrating. So I really like these changes.
I still think he's a hard champion to tweak, though. That's my only problem. Given the way his kit is, it's like you can only really start taking away numbers from damage. Whereas a lot of other champions you can take away, like Ari, you could tone down her movement speed now on her Q. Fizz, it's still, we better take damage away from him again. Jesus Christ, this champion. Or, wow, Fizz is too weak, maybe we should add a little bit more damage in there. And then he's either strong or he's not strong, and we've got this stupid position that Fizz is in. Either he's strong or he's not.
Well, that's how Assassin should be.
Well, they've now actually added to his abilities the tools to actually tweak them properly. Before, because I've been a really, really big Fizz player since about 6 months after I started playing. I actually got into Fizz, and that was years ago. And I've been a big Fizz guy since then. The problem with him before was that the damage was based off missing health was on the passive portion of your W, and you were reapplying that every time you auto attacked, whether you had the mana or not. Now you're relying on being able to have the mana to increase your damage based on that one. There'll still be some slightly increased damage on the passive portion, I believe. What they've also done to be able to tweak the numbers around is obviously moving that to the active portion. They can amp or subtract from the mana cost on the W to increase or decrease his damage and his access to that damage. Also, adding the increased percent damage on the ultimate is just a really, really good change, because they can alter what it is at all 3 levels. They don't just have to give him the flat 20% that they've given him now. They can start it at 15% at level 1, 20% at level 2, and 25% at level 3 if they want, or they can, change that around how they want to. And the change to his Q is a little bit funky. I haven't actually played him on this patch, so until I actually do, I'm not going to be comfortable really talking about that one, because there are some people that are really, really happy about this sort of change, who are the people who weren't Fizz players, and the people that are Fizz players are really, really unhappy about his Q changes, because the Q would automatically apply damage. If you're a Cassinan and you Rift walked away from the Q once it was targeted on you, which is the Urchin Strike from Fizz, you would receive the damage no matter what. Now, if you flash away from the ability before the ability ends, you don't take the damage. Yep. But the problem with this is, if it was a skill shot, I think if his Q was kind of like Vi's Q, but he would go through all the targets, not just hit one and stop, I think that then would be the right way to balance it. Having it as a targeted charge, and then not allowing the damage to proc if you don't make it all the way there is the problem. Whereas if you give somebody like Maokai's Twisted Advance is the W that follows you when you flash. That is a way to counter Maokai. If you have him W onto a tank, and then the tank flashes backwards into a position where you guys can deal with him and his team can't chase, that is good. That is exactly what you want to be doing to the Maokai in some instances. Whereas Fizz has got this, oh look, somebody's flashed out of the way. Oh look, now we have total counterplay to Fizz. There is no way that he can apply that damage if you use some sort of mobility move in the middle of the ability, and that's what I don't like about it. I would like him to maybe follow you and do the damage, or make it a skill shot. You can't go anywhere in between there.
I personally would be happy to be able to deliberately drag Fizz into the turret, because I know as Maokai, it's hilarious / terrifying when somebody dashes backwards so you behind the tower. I've had that happen a number of times. Right.
Play Malphite and ult behind your team when you get Twisted Advanced.
All right. What else can we talk about before we finish up? So,
talk about
any changes?
Do you want to do any?
Oh, we'll do Giant Spell. We'll do Giant Spell.
Yeah, we can do any real quick, I reckon.
Okay.
Annie
Hang on,
gets
hang on.
the
We have a
shield on
request in the Twitch chat first. Glenn, can you zoom that camera in at all on the side of me and I can dance like in an 80s music video and then just like turn to the second camera?
Can you two just mute your mics for a second so I can talk about Annie?
Mine's been muted the whole podcast.
Now, while the bear is active, Tibbers, Annie can use her shield on the bear. So now the bear, when this activates, the bear gets that tankiness Annie gets from the thingy, and also that damage return that Rammus has, which Annie gets on her molten shield thingy. And he runs faster, which is cool. So you can stay in the AoE damage range for that. I want to say aura. I don't know what it is. That AoE damage that's around Tibbers, so you can keep people in that longer. And he returns damage to you when you hit him, and he can tank towers better.
I think a really good way to buff or to balance Annie would be that Tibbers can cast spells the same as she does, but at slightly shorter range in the same
You're
direction that
crazy.
she's cutting them, kind of like
You are
picks.
crazy. You're just
I
crazy.
think it'd be, remove the dot damage from around Tibbers.
Yeah, I kind
Did
of...
you know that Tibbers actually has the biggest AP ratio in the game?
Yeah, and nerf that obviously.
Um,
Did you know that Teemo has the lowest level 1 attack damage?
Do you know how much I don't care about Teemo? I sort of feel like Tibbers, like the sole purpose for Tibbers to exist is to create an AoE stun and to do a buttload of damage. Like, it really, like when they change, I mean, unless they are gonna like, I mean, I think your suggestion, Rank, of like getting rid of the AoE damage and actually channeling her abilities through him would actually make him more interesting. Because I mean, I just sort of feel like once he's summoned, you know, it kind of doesn't do anything. Like, yeah,
He's a tower tanker when he's summoned. After
That's
he's
it,
granted
yeah,
that
that's about
stun,
it.
He becomes a tower tanker. And I think that definitely that would make Annie very much more interesting, make Tibbers much more interactive, and greater champion all round. We want to move on.
Exactly. The interesting way would be how they do her Q. Whether it'd just be a straight line skill shot in the same direction as Annie to the guy.
just make
But if it was obviously
make him shoot
minions
cues off in every
Tibbers
direction.
Is now Tibbers is, you heard it here first, Tibbers is a walking Zed.
Well, actually, I don't mind that, but she can only use it on her ultimate. Zed has it up all the time. That's Zed's thing. Whereas this is unique to Annie, and she can move where her shadow is. But think about it. Annie is an old design champion. She's got this big dump of damage, but it's really kind of immobile. And if you don't burn flash to use it, you're not
Yeah.
going to land it.
That's it.
Yeah,
So
good. Annie
she's a
needs
really,
to
really
be
old
more
design
interactive.
champion.
Annie
Yeah,
needs to be more
that's-
interactive, and you should hire Scott to be your champ designer. Hey, Carrot, did you hear about this new change that came to Giant's Belt?
He's rushing to this giant spell thing. Can't he just appreciate the Annie for a little bit?
No!
He's getting out of control. I wonder if we delay this, continue to just like delay talking about giant spells. Yeah, we should talk about Elixir of Iron. Let's see if we can make Victor like completely lose his mind. Alright, let's talk about Giant's Belt. So, Giant's Belt now builds out of a ruby crystal, which is nice. It's just a nice little quality of life thing. Like I'm not that excited about because as a support I almost never build Giant's Belt, but hey, if you build Giant's Belt, it's now easy to build it. So
This
So
is
yeah.
awful. This is an
Disappointed.
awful game.
Disappointed. But now, instead of going for that Sightstone, what you can do is build your ruby crystal into a giant spell if you get fed and have no use for it whatsoever.
This change is really good.
like Umreka.
It allows you to pick up early ruby crystals in the top lane. Or the jungle. You can pick up an early
That's what I'm
ruby
saying,
crystal
Dan.
and you can
It's-
sit on it and you can build it into a giant spout later. If you're going back, you're not doing that well in lane, you're denied farm, pick up a ruby crystal, you can turn it into giant spout later. What I want to know, how does this affect the greatest item in the entire game, the most expensive item in the entire game that builds out of a giant spout? Frozen Mallet. What does this change to Frozen Mallet? Because now Frozen Mallet is an easier item to build. Is Frozen Mallet now a core item on Scion?
No.
God.
Why? You want to know why?
God, no.
Because Frozen Mallet is a shite item, and you shouldn't
No,
build
but-
it.
Yeah,
Okay, so the problem with Frozen Mallet and Scion is Scion doesn't have enough sticking power to use the Frozen Mallet.
Yeah.
Frozen Mallet gives him the sticking power. When he's passives, he runs away and he punches him and he slows him while he's punching, so he can actually use that fucking passive.
But why would you build health on a guy who generates health through killing things?
Because
Yeah.
it takes fucking 10 years to
Well,
build
actually, yeah. Over the course of a game, you're lucky to stack up 600 health.
I guess.
that. You have to build health on him anyway, he's a tank.
True.
Well, if you're picking up items like Sunfire Cape and Randuin's Omen on him, you're getting help
Okay.
anyway.
The problem
pick
with
up a little-
Frozen Mallet, right? It is 89.3% gold efficient pulled from LoL Wiki. The passive, therefore, for the item to be considered 100% gold efficient, has to have a direct value of 353 gold. The other items that are similar in this class are something similar like a Trinity Force, gives you health and damage and attack speed, and also the Sheen proc as well, with a little bit of AP and mana on top of it. Or you can pick up a Randuin's Omen, and it'll give you similar sort of thing, but it's more useful because you can use it from really, really far away if you're a top lane tank.
I'm just saying. Well, sometimes there have been people who have picked up Frozen Mallet just because the situation may have called for it for whatever reason, whether or not it's a shite item. And now we have an easier build path for the item. Does this change anything?
Doesn't change the efficiency
No.
stats. That's the problem with
It won't change the efficiency stats, but now that it's easier to build, does something change?
No.
Do those situational times where you want to build it, do they maybe pop up a little more?
You're mentioning top lane, and that's obviously what this item change is very much directed at, and I like that. What it's doing now for top laners have a slew of items to pick from at level 1 now. You can still effectively, if you think you're going to lose your lane matchup, you're playing, I don't know, Nasus into Riven. Something like you're going to get blown out of the water by an AD item. You can pick up a cloth armor, and you can pick up 5 potions, or you can pick up 4 red potions and a 1 mana potion. You can pick up a ruby crystal and a couple of potions. You can pick up a Doran's blade and a couple of potions. You can pick up a Doran's shield, a Doran's ring. Heck, if you're playing Rise still and you want to go that path, you can pick up a sapphire crystal and a couple of potions. There are so many options now for top laners, and that's really cool. You never actually specifically know, unless you're at a specific elo where you know exactly what's going to happen 9 times out of 10, unless you're playing against Weed Whacker.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, I don't feel Frozen Mallet. We actually need like a sound, like a soundboard that has just an inbuilt ponophobia rant against Frozen Mallet. So
you don't make friends with Mallet. You don't make friends with Mallet.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty much. I mean, there's really not much else that actually matters. Probably, maybe we'll get into the jungle item cost changes. I mean, basically, jungle items are now 100 gold more. Like the basic magic jungle items are 100 gold more. So that's probably the only other change worth mentioning. As Black and Owl would say, nothing else in this patch matters.
The important part about that change is the exploit that pretty much everyone at higher elos was doing was clear main camp, clear minor camp, clear main camp, and by main camp I mean one of the buff camps. Base, buy tier 1 gold item, or tier 2 gold item, whatever it was, because I don't play jungle. Go clear second buff camp with more stats, then go kill Rift Scuttler on one side of the map. Get a slew of gold, because Rift Scuttler was proccing the thing as well, and you were getting a huge amount from the increased item. Now you can't just clear one minor camp, one major camp, and then go and buy the item. You can clear minor camp, minor camp, go buy item, clear major camp. That is now...
now people might actually learn how to clear the jungle. Now people might actually learn how to clear the fucking jungle instead of doing this stupid early back bullshit.
Well, I'd still say go and buy your jungle items as soon as you can.
Yeah.
You need to sustain.
Because,
otherwise,
it's the gold. It's the gold bonus you're getting from it.
Yeah, but... Well, you're going back to get the item. You're losing gold when you do that. If you clear your camps, one clear, you go back, and every champion can do it in one clear. I've done it with every champion in one clear. Then you go back, then you haven't wasted the gold from going back, and you're coming back, you can start ganking, you can go back into your jungle, and you're earning your extra gold. I don't agree with the early back.
It's the best way to go through the jungle at the moment.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you back, you've got more stats for clearing the jungle, you're generating more gold from clearing the jungle, and you have to base and pick it up anyway.
That's it.
So it was the better way to pick it up.
If you clear the whole jungle, you're so low at the end of it, you have to go back anyhow. Like this, and then you waste both buffs. Like if you go back, if you
waste both buffs anyway if you go back.
No, because you clear, take the first camp.
Well, everyone starts at Krugs. Krugs is where the red one is. And the red one is the most important one for ganking.
Oh.
You start Gromp, go blue, and particularly on the red side, you start at Gromp, go blue, go back,
I see everyone starting Krugs. Even in pros, everyone's starting Krugs.
Well,
No, not necessarily. Bottom lanes actually in the LCS have been starting at the Krugs, and their junglers have more often been starting on the top side of the map with the assistance from the top laner.
Certainly, most of the games I play, people start on the red side. Red side? Yeah, red side. Start at Gromp. So they both. It seems both junglers are starting on the bottom side of the jungle.
And the times that they're not, it's because their bottom lane's taking the Krugs.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can talk about this again next week, because we're going to talk about Tristana next week, because she's got a whole new kit, and I'm excited about it. Maybe we'll talk about this more when Steve is here, because he's a jungler as well as opinions. And we're at a time anyway, so that kind of brings us to the end. We can cross that one off the list. So, this has been episode... we just want to say thank you, Blackjack, for joining us. It's good having you here. At least I have a second camera so that we can see Scott doing multiple things at once.
Yeah, I was pretty much just here tonight to see if it was possible to get a good angle to Scott.
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
No, we can say 2 cameras down, it still has
Well,
to work.
you could say that is a better view of Scott because his fiancée is there and she's better looking than him. So, yeah, that's an improvement.
Right.
Okay. Let me just make this clear. You think you're better looking than your fiancée?
Yes.
How much do you so you want to sleep on the couch tonight?
If I could clone myself, I would not be getting married to her.
Okay. This is
not
I'm gonna go cook myself some dinner.
Oz Creek podcast.
I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, I'm getting out of it too.
She knows that I think this way too. This is not the first time this has come up.
Okay. This has got creepy, very creepy all of a sudden.
Okay, go fuck yourself. You'd say I would if I could.
Wow, there you go. This has been informative. Alright, well, this has been episode 73. Thanks again, Blackjack, for joining us. And, of course, the VOD will be up later tonight. And we'll be back again next week.
Yeah, I think that's about it, isn't it? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
We were kind of waiting for that.